oldest known swastika found in Ukraine. Ice Age bird figurines from Mezine shows a sampling of the art from the Ice Age site at Mezine in Ukraine, located approximately 100 kilometers northeast of Kiev. The artifacts were bird figurines carved from mammoth ivory with inscribed patterns that included elaborate swastikas. Ca 10,000 BCE. From Figure 2 we observe that the original swastika was an elaborate form with spiral arms, whereas the more modern symbol is like the Gammadian geometrical form with short arms. Truncation to the Gammadian form does not change the meaning of this symbol in connection with the Earth Mother or Goddess culture, but it lessens the chance of interpretive insight. The crux of the matter is this: the swastika is a double symbol for a fertility religion having two gods, the Earth Mother and the Earth Father. To get to this point, you must study the symbols of ancient art until you conclude that the principal meaning of the equal arm cross is reference to the Earth Mother. In addition to these context-related sources, numerous examples of ancient minimal art of human females and birds make the same suggestion about the cross. The point then is that the ancient swastika was an equal arm cross with a serpent symbol spiral attached to the tip of each arm. You can see this in Figure 2, and it is over 10,000 years old. Among the earliest cultures utilizing swastika is the Neolithic Vinca culture of Southeast Europe, which dates back around 8,000 years. A pottery fragment with the image of a swastika, dating to 7,000 years ago, and an ancient female adornment with a phallus are among the artifacts shown for the first time as part of the ongoing exhibition Gods, Symbols and Ancient Signs, in the museum in Vratsa in northwestern Bulgaria. The swastika-decorated clay pottery fragment was found by archaeologists during excavations of a ritual pit around the village of Altimur near the town of Vratsa. The ancient find dates back to before the copper agent was used prominently by many civilizations for many millennia. If you want to see just how deeply rooted the swastika pattern is in Europe, a good place to start is Kiev, where the National Museum of the History of Ukraine has a small ivory figurine of a female bird, made from the tusk of a mammoth. It was found in 1908 at the Paleolithic settlement of Mezine near the Russian border. On the torso of the bird is engraved an intricate pattern of joined-up swastikas. It's the oldest identified swastika pattern in the world and has been radiocarbon dated to an astonishing 15,000 years ago. Among the earliest cultures utilizing swastika is the Old Europe, Neolithic Danube Valley Civilization, Vinca culture, Cucuteni-Trypillian culture, Varna civilization, all in Europe, which proves that the swastika is a definite European sign moving east into Indus Valley Civilization. It was brought by migrating Indo-European tribes to India, where it is revered in the religious and cultural life of the Indo-Aryans. It did not originate in the Indus Valley Civilization as some people thought. In Europe, the swastika appears most frequently of all continents, often interpreted as a solar symbol. Swastika shapes have been found on numerous artifacts from Iron Age Europe, Greco-Roman, Illyrian, Etruscan, Baltic, Celtic, Germanic, Slavic and Georgian Borjgali. This prehistoric use seems to be reflected in the appearance of the symbol in various folk cultures of Europe. The symbol has been found on vessels in the ancient city of Troy. The evidence shows that it served as a symbol of fertility and life. Its similar use can be found in trench graves in Mycanae, Greece, on Athenian vases, and even decorating the garments of Aphrodite, the Greek goddess of love. Also, the Greek Parthenon had this symbol as a Greek design, just like other designs. In Europe, such symbols can be found in Roman catacombs, in churches, on plaza stones, and graves.
And it now seems that to see the swastika as an Aryan symbol, exclusively rooted in some mystical Indian past, is also mistaken. Archaeological finds have long demonstrated that the swastika is a very old symbol, but its geographic origins are by no means limited to India. It's found in ancient cultures from China right across Europe, with some of the oldest now being identified in the area of Eastern Europe and Russia. And to my surprise, the place which best demonstrates the swastika's long European history turns out to be Ukraine. Tetiana Radievska is head of research at the National Museum of the History of Ukraine in Kiev, and she's carefully unwrapping one of their most prized treasures, which was found 100 miles away near the Russian border.
So this is a figurine from Mezine village of late Paleolithic period.
It's a small bird, about 10 centimetres long, made from mammoth tusk ivory, and it's decorated with the oldest identified swastika pattern in the world.
We have a radiocarbon dating, and it dates from 15,000 years.
It's astonishing to see something so beautifully preserved from 15,000 years ago. Engraved on one side of the bird is a large triangle, and on the other what looks like a series of swastikas joined together in a pattern known as a meander. This association of swastikas with a triangle or rhombus on female figurines is a recurring theme in many ancient artefacts and supports the idea that the swastika started out as a fertility symbol.
A whole set of figurines were found there in the place of the settlement, and some of them are phallic symbols, and some of them are figures of female birds.
A paleontologist by the name of Valentina Bibikova made an unexpected discovery when she examined a cross-section of some ivory tusk and saw the naturally occurring pattern on it.
The inside of the tusk actually has a pattern that is somewhat similar to a meander pattern. So in a way we can say that a prehistoric man maybe portrayed what he saw actually in nature, because a mammoth was also a symbol of fertility, of well-being. Also, if you look closer, you can
Tetiana hands me a chunk of ivory tusk and a magnifying glass.
It's not actually a mammoth tusk, but it's an elephant tusk.
Wow! That is absolutely the same pattern.
Can you?
Yes. That's amazing. So that could actually be the origin of the pattern that gave rise to the swastika.
In my opinion, it's one of the most convincing versions of interpretation.
Of course, the swastika may have more than one origin, independently created in different times and places, perhaps inspired by other natural phenomena.
So now we're going to go and see some younger swastikas, is that right?
The museum in Kiev is the perfect place to see how the swastika evolved and diversified in different cultures on the territory of Ukraine.
The swastika appears here during the Middle Bronze Age and then in Late Bronze Age. And
here in Kiev there are a number of Bronze Age pots with swastikas dating from around 4,000 years ago.
They were found at the beginning of the 20th century, but then when Germans came here they were very interested because they want to say that Aryan came here from the north and that swastika was evidence of Aryans.
So the Germans actually took them away from Ukraine,
yes,
because they thought they were a sign of Aryan culture and they wanted to investigate.
They were very greedy to have it all in Germany.
Thankfully, the museum did get them back after the war.
In our collection, we have some items from the Grecian period. They come from Greek colonies that were founded on the territory of Ukraine in the 7th century BC.
By the time of the ancient Greeks, there are architectural features with interlinked swastikas, such as those that form the distinctive Greek key pattern found on tiles and carpets even today. There are also terracotta vases beautifully painted with swastikas that have curly limbs like unfurling tendrils.
So this ornament of swastika was really very popular with the Grecian period, and here the animal is the goat, and under his belly there is a swastika.
What we know about the swastika in the archaeological record is necessarily limited by which materials are preserved, such as the stone seals from the Indus Valley or terracotta figurines from Troy. But here in the museum in Kiev, there's a remarkable textile fragment dating back to the 12th century of a gold-embroidered standing collar, probably belonging to a Slav princess.
The embroidery had a complex pattern with crosses, swastikas, and some glass inserts. And rich women like that decorated especially the collar. If they are embroidered well, they would be protective.
So the collar was embroidered with swastikas in order to ward off evil. Interestingly, it's a practice that continues in China today. We may never know the full meaning of all the different swastikas used by people in the ancient past, but that swastikas appear in so many different places over such a huge time span and in so many similar objects shows a common cultural importance. Konstantin Borisov again.
In this world where the tendency is to keep dividing and separating, what we need to understand that this is part of our common culture. The swastika is one of the symbols that should be meant to unite us and not to divide us. But to understand it, we need to know its origins, its history. Education, education and education. There's no any other way.
Zeer simpel is het wervelend zonnerad voorgesteld door het hakenkruis. Een oeroud Arisch heilsteken dat bijna uitsluitend voorkomt op zeer oude voorwerpen, zoals urnen en bekers, welke bij opgravingen gevonden zijn. Bij die opgravingen is vastgesteld dat dit heilige zonneteken reeds 3000 jaar geleden bekend was.
Having been founded in 1703 by Tsar Peter the Great, St. Petersburg was the Russian imperial capital for 2 centuries. It is an important strategic port city on the Baltic Sea, understandably Russia's second largest city after Moscow. Embellished with topaz, lazurite, and other precious stones, the church on spilled blood was built on the site where Emperor Alexander II was fatally wounded. The walls and ceilings inside the church are completely covered in intricately detailed mosaics of biblical scenes totaling over 7,500 square meters, designed by some of the most celebrated Russian artists of the day. It was closed in the 1930s when the Bolsheviks went on an offensive against religion and destroyed churches all over the country, but was restored over several decades, reopened in 1997 in all its dazzling former glory, and at night it resembles something right out of a fairy tale. While sites like this one have become famous tourist attractions, for many Russians, all of the renovations and maintenance is done largely to help them remember their past, a pre-communist history which was all but wiped out by the Bolsheviks. This hair accessory from the 1800s with swastikas, a symbol known in Russia since Paleolithic times, is currently in New York at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Here we see a swastika on banknotes, and if you look in the center you'll see it. These were in circulation until 1922. After 1933, publications that contained images such as this Russian folk costume with swastikas that were distributed to libraries, for the most part, have been destroyed. Few Russians today would accept that there were these swastikas on vestments of the Russian deacon, and even fewer would believe that this is a Russian tablecloth, as authentically Russian as these forbidden swastikas are authentically Native American, also banned. This postcard predates the Nazi Party by decades. Notice the direction and placement of the swastika on his arm. The swastika can readily be found on almost all items of Russian folk art, ornaments in embroidery and weaving, in carvings and wood paintings, on Russian weapons, ceramics, Orthodox religious artifacts, on towels, aprons, tablecloths, belts, men and women's shirts, jewelry. So the question becomes, what are they hiding? It's clear that the Native Americans were robbed of their history, and it's clear that what is happening in Russia today is an awakening of a people who for too long were not permitted to know who they are.
И стоят боги на меже той перед сварогом, и тот, воздев руки свои от бороды, повелевает дождю идти на землю нашу. И персть высохший насытиться может по воле Божьей, и злаки могут подняться к тверди небесной и увидеть Сурью. Ведь Сурья питает их и наполняет силой зеленые кусты и злаки, и от ее рук все оживает и зеленеет. И она колосья растит, и собираем их в житницы наши, и те снопы складываем в них. И вот можем мы поистине есть хлеб свой, обвенчаем сваргу и землю, и справим свадьбу их, как ожидаем. Творец есть сварог, а Протева — жена его, и празднество должны мы справлять, как для мужа и жены. Мы дети ее, и так говорим. Быть тебе здравой и счастливой, и иметь детей много, и собой хвалиться, и так, глядя в воды, быть многоплодной и себя давать мужу своему Питару.
Эти символы ведут свое происхождение из времени каменного века. По-разному называли эти знаки, но всегда они рассказывали о миропонимании человека, о том, как он видит себя в окружающем мире. Дело в том, что наши с вами предки считали себя сотворцами всех космических процессов. И вот даже сам процесс ткачества, ручного ткачества, тоже имел свое мифологическое объяснение. Потому что нить – это древний символ жизни, судьбы, связанный с великим женским божеством, владычицы судьб, владычицы жизни и судьбы, богини неба. Разные племена называли ее по-разному, но вот это представление, как характерно для всех индоевропейских, всех славянских народов. Узоры, они живые, они работали, они действительно что-то меняли в жизни человека. Вот, они воздействовали на его физическое самочувствие.
Сегодня Богом! Слава! Здраво пути, вы люди добрые, примите всех с Бога, от века до века, от кола до кола, от рода до рода.
Прискакали заюшки, принятени гулюшки, синие околю.
Добрый вечер, паны, паны!